Our example test project now has many tests in it. We could run them all at once using the PyTest command. But if we were to continue adding more and more tests, that would take a lot more time. It's not unusual for test suites to take minutes to hours and possibly even days to run to completion. So, how can we filter our tests to run only specific ones that we want to do? One of the easiest answers is tags, which we'll be covering in this chapter. I added tags to the feature files already in our test project. If we look at cucumbers.feature, I've put a tag at the feature level called cucumber basket. I've also added two tags, add and remove, for the add and remove test scenarios. Tags can be applied either to features or to scenarios, or scenario outlines. The format of a tag is fairly basic. It's prefixed by an @ symbol, and then it's a bunch of alphanumeric or dashes or underscore characters. The key thing is that it is an identifier, that it is one token. A scenario or a feature can have an unlimited number of tags, and tags can be reused by different features and scenarios as well. If we look at the other feature files, to the service feature, I've added the two tags service and DuckDuckGo. And to the web feature, I've added web and DuckDuckGo. If you take a closer look at this web.feature file, you'll notice that the tags are only at the feature level. They're not at the scenarios. What's really nice about feature level tags is they inherently apply to all the scenarios within the feature. So even though I don't specifically mark these two scenarios as being web or DuckDuckGo, because the feature bears those tags, so too the scenarios effectively bear them as well. You can use any PyTest options from the command line with PyTest BDD. They just might work in slightly different ways. To run all tests, use the standard python-m pytest invocation. But if you want to filter down and run only specific tests, you could say run all tests in a test module by writing the path to that test module, or also a directory. If you want to filter by tag, you can use the -k option. You can also use the -m option if you would like. If you want to run specific scenarios by name, you'll need to use the @scenario function instead of the scenarios function shortcut and explicitly give that scenario a test_function name. And then you can reference it like this, :: by name of the function from the test module path. Typically, though, for PyTest BDD tests, I find that to be a bit overkill, and I recommend sticking to tags just for simplicity and ease of invoking from the command line. So now, let's run our PyTest BDD tests from the command line using different types of PyTest invocations. I'm already in my project, so I can run my tests using the basic command. Since I'm using pipenv as my package manager, I'll need to start my command with pipenv run so all the dependencies are loaded. Then I run the Python command, and I attach -m pytest to say I'm going to run the PyTest module. Without any other options, this will discover and run all tests. And so if I hit enter, we can see how it's discovering every single one of my step definition test modules, and now it's running. Notice how the web tests are the slowest. That's the rule of ones in action. If we give it just a moment, all right, cool. All 14 tests were discovered, and they passed in about 18 seconds. Now, instead of running all tests, let's run all the tests in one of our test modules. If I provide the path to, let's say the cucumbers module, and I hit run. Notice how for this one, it only ran 6 tests, and it only ran the 6 tests from the test cucumber steps module. All the other tests were excluded. Now, let's say instead of filtering by the test module path, I want to filter by tags. I'll say pytest-k, and let's say I want to run the tests that have the cucumber basket tag. Note here that I'm going to put it in double quotes just to make sure that any spaces are included in my tagging expression. And also note that there's no @ symbol in front. It's just the raw identifier name. So now when I run them, it again runs 6 tests because all the tests in that feature file were tagged with cucumber basket. But notice how also it mentions that 8 were deselected. That means that the other 8 tests of the 14 that did not have the specific tag were explicitly excluded from the run. We can also run tests by tags when the tag is used by multiple different feature files. If you recall, we used the DuckDuckGo tag in both the service and the web tests. And here if I run, we can see that the test cucumber steps test module was excluded, but the service and the web steps modules were included. And so 8 selected tests are running, and they all passed. Nice. We can be a little bit more advanced with our tagging expressions too. Let's say that I want to run all tests that have the tags DuckDuckGo as well as the service tag. Now, this should filter all the tags that were in, or all the scenarios that were in the test services steps and exclude the ones from web steps, because even though the web steps ones had the DuckDuckGo tag, they did not have the service tag. And what do you know? That's exactly what happened. We can use any sort of basic logical operator, such as and, or, and not, in our tagging expressions. So if we do it again, I'll show you an example with or. Let's say that I want to run all tests that have the tag service or web. And again, it picks up all the service or web tests. Nice. One more moment. Web tests can be slow. There we go. Cool. And finally, let's show how to use not. So I can say run not the web tests. Boom, lightning fast. All the tests except the web test were included in a run. Awesome. You can also filter by tags when running your tests through PyCharm. What you'll need to do is go to the Run Debug Configurations. And for your configuration for whichever tests you want to run, you can add the tag names as keywords. Now, if you were to run them, you'll notice that it does the filtering. So if I run them real quick, we'll see here, my test cucumbers steps ran only 3 tests, and it deselected the 3 because my run configuration included only the add tag. So you can use it either through command line or through an IDE.